Hi, my name is Brantley Sawyer, and I am a virtual specialist for the STEM department of the Georgia Department of Education. I am also a third grade teacher and STEAM coordinator at Pine Ridge Elementary. Here at Pine Ridge Elementary, we earned our STEAM certification in January of 2020. That was after 3 to 4 years of really digging in and figuring out exactly what it means to be a STEAM certified school, changing our school culture, changing the way we teach. It sounds like a lot at the front, and it does take a lot of learning. However, what we can say is that the benefits we've seen have made all of the work so worth it. Today, in particular, you're going to be hearing from our kindergarten team, and they're going to detail for you how they planned their chicken coop PBL. This started about 3 years ago, and it was a slow rollout process. And you're going to hear how they mapped out their standards, how they integrated the arts, how they got the community involved, and more importantly, how they got students at such a young age involved in the process, understanding what investigative research means, and really contributing to the success of the chicken coop. Every single year, they have new kindergarten students, and those kindergarten students are now responsible for what the students from the previous year have left them with. The great thing about this session today is that if you were like we were when we would walk into STEAM or STEM certified schools, we would see these huge displays, and we'd be so impressed, but we would also be a little defeated because we couldn't figure out how are we going to get from where we are now, which is Black Line Masters and just kind of doing what we've always done, to this. Our goal for the end of this session is that you have a really good starting point and that you really understand these are the steps we follow to make it a success at our school, and we hope that you can follow these same steps and make it successful. So I hope you'll sit back, relax, enjoy this training. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer them. Or if I don't know the answer, I'll pass it on to my kindergarten team, and they will be happy to answer it as well.
A question that we get asked a lot is why chickens? Why did we choose to have chickens at our school? Not only to take on that responsibility, but to, of course, experience the challenges and difficulties that come along with having any type of live animal at your school. One thing that kind of drove that decision for us is after visiting a lot of STEAM certified schools in the process of us getting certified, a common trend that we saw between almost all those schools was that they have some type of live animal. And we knew after talking to them and seeing what the kids were doing at that school that it would be such an easy way to get the kids involved and interested and excited about their learning. We definitely knew that there was going to be a lot of challenges that we were going to have to face, but after talking to our administration and working out a few things of where we were going to put the coop and what it would look like as far as us taking care of it, and what to do on the holidays and weekends when we weren't physically there, we worked out all of those kinks and we realized that this was definitely something that we could do. Our district as a whole theme is agriculture, so we also knew that once the kids learned this stuff in kindergarten, they could easily integrate it all the way up to high school. With agriculture being our theme, we knew that they would continue their learning and using the things that they learned all the way through high school. We again knew that it was going to be a lot of responsibility, but after looking at all of our standards and seeing how easily it could be integrated, especially into our science standards, it just all kind of took off. Once we figured out, okay, we could easily integrate chickens and live animals, living things into our living and non-living standard, then we could easily pull in the math. And once we kind of got everything rocking and rolling, we knew that this would be something that we could take on as teachers and that the kids could take on. We realized that there was going to be some challenges, but those challenges stemmed into our investigative research, and it kind of helped us overall determine our PBL and what we were going to be working on all year with the kids.
The first thing that's the most important is standards. How can we meet our standards? We talked about what were the most important standards that we wanted to do and that we wanted to cover. So we knew that counting to 100, counting by fives, counting by ones, all the accounting standards could easily be covered with our PBL, which was how can we protect the living things around our school, and our living things are chickens. And then we got to talking about, you know, what writing standards can we incorporate, and comparing numbers. We really realized that the chickens could be integrated into lots of different standards. We even integrated the arts standards into the chicken coop. We acted out plays, we painted rocks to do matching games with animals. So the chickens just really fit well into our grade level, and we didn't feel like we had to go above and beyond to make something fit. So I think that's the most important, is when you're looking at your standards and you're thinking about your PBL or your project-based learning, think about, well, what works, what fits, how do we not have to go above and beyond what we're already doing? Because a lot of times as teachers, we know what we're we know what we're teaching, and we know what we want to cover. So standards, definitely covering those standards and making it meaningful was the first step.
Hello, my name is Abby Cox, and I teach kindergarten here at Pine Ridge Elementary in Ellerslie, Georgia. I'm going to be answering 2 questions today about investigative research and how do we integrate the arts in kindergarten. So with STEAM, you have to hold the art standards to the same rigor as you would as your academic standards. And for teachers, that means printing off all those lovely art standards and getting to know them just like you do your classroom regular standards, social studies, science, math, all that fun stuff. And finding out what those art standards are really asking them. Now, we have done a lot of art projects and, music and movement, but the thing that we've really enjoyed is adding that theater element and those movements. The movements and having the students tell a story with their body really helps them to remember all the long, interesting things that we're learning about with our chickens. For example, one of our investigative research questions with the chickens is always, how does the length of day affect the laying habits of a chicken? And that's a lot for a kindergartner to say. So we add a little bit of movement, and before you know it, they've got it. So it's, how does the length of day affect the laying habits of a chicken? And like I said, believe it or not, a few times of that, they've got it. It's a fun way to remember it. They can tell you all about the chickens after that. It's almost like it just clicks with them, and they're ready to talk STEAM to you all day. And with that in particular investigative research question, we decided that we were going to do a play, and we wanted to tell the pre-K students, the upcoming kindergarten students at our school, about, the weather and how it affects our chickens, because when they come up next year, they're going to have to know that too, because they're going to have to take care of the chickens, instead of the babies we have now. So we broke it up to having a theater week. And so like day 1 was, what is an actor and what does an actor do? Day 2 was, what are props? How can we make them? Why do we need them to tell a story? Day 3 was a setting and a set, backdrops, all that fun stuff. And then we also had the art teacher come in and teach us about warm and cool colors. And then our music teacher helped us to realize that some instruments sound like daytime and some sound like nighttime. And so the kids really came up with their own production of our investigative research. And by the end of that, we had beautiful pieces of backdrops, and we had great masks for the chickens, and they had their own little storyline. Some students even wrote a script for the play. They were typing. Now this was about probably February, March, so a lot of with the typing, really hands-on with the teacher, and and helping them, and sound it out, you've got this, that kind of thing. But yeah, just one way that we've integrated the arts.
I was at a STEAM conference, and I can remember thinking, well, how do we get this rolling? And The thing that stuck with me is you've got to build relationships with your community and the parents. Your parents want to help. They want to know how they can help. And so delegating ways in your classroom is probably the easiest way. Like, have parents come in to read aloud. I know that we can't do that right now during COVID, but letting them Zoom, having a list of needs, just talk to your parents, let them know, hey, this is my idea. How can you help? What resources do you have? And we were very fortunate. I was sitting in a conference with a parent. We were discussing, they came in to talk to me. They said, we have the resources you need to build a chicken coop. And it went from there. And that parent was part of a construction company. And that construction company took the plans that our fourth grade Odyssey found. And then from there, we built the coop. And we also had another parent that said, I have part of the coop, the roosting area where the chickens can roost, if you can build the other part. And so that parent and grandparent actually donated 5 chickens to the school. So everything that we had was just through communication and relationships that were built with parents.
So Mr. Weldon, how did helping the school benefit you?
I would say helping the school benefited me like any real service project benefits people. It just makes you feel good to be able to give back and not just always work for yourself, but give to a great cause and a great school. So I think it made me feel good to be able to help and do a little bit of something and give back to a school that does so much for our family.
Why did you want to get involved in this project, and what was the easiest part of building the coop?
We wanted to get involved, I think, to get to know people at the school more, and like I said, just to give back. I mean, Pine Ridge is so good to our kids, and now we have 2 that are there, and we'll have 3 eventually. And sometimes you just want to give back to people that are giving so much to you.
So you said you have 2 there. Have both of those children been able to participate?
Yep, I think both of them have been able to participate with the chicken coop and have enjoyed, working with the chickens and getting excited about the eggs and just seeing the whole process.
Can you give firsthand examples of what your child learned from their experience of building the coop and tending to the chickens?
I think what they learned and kind of our firsthand experience is just, the delight we can see sometimes in their eyes when they tell us about, hey, the chickens laid eggs today, or we experimented with different things for the chickens to lay in to see. So, you just see the excitement for them doing something different and a little bit different than just sitting in the classroom and getting out and getting involved.
Okay, well, did you notice a shift in your children's thinking when the project got started?
I would say, a shift. I mean, maybe them just being engaged and involved and just really trying to dig in and getting excited about, how can we help these chickens? How can we make them produce more eggs? So I think they got into the details, which was really cool.
Good deal. Did you donate your time and materials?
We did donate our time and materials from a company I was working with, and I was out there the whole time while we were building it and had some carpenters and helpers, and we did bring materials and just worked hard on it and got it done.
And last thing, if a teacher is in need of volunteers or a parent is wanting to volunteer and they are unsure of how to get started, what advice would you give them?
I would give advice to any parents that are interested in volunteering just to reach out to the teachers. And I think the teachers, when they hear that, will be, if they are in need of something, then hopefully they'll be open to asking and saying, yes, here's some things you can help me. And I'd tell the parents that it's really fulfilling. I mean, you give up your time and your efforts, and really, I think that's where pure joy comes from, is when you can do for others.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Now you're ready to introduce your PBL to your students. Your PBL is your main goal. It's never going to change throughout the whole year. I kind of like to think about it as a umbrella. You have your big, your constant, your steady, your never changing, and then you have your investigative research questions that kind of trickle off of that and are more fluid and can change throughout the year. Here at Pine Ridge, our PBL is directly related to the science standard of living things and their needs. Our PBL is how do we support the living things at our school. And so when the chickens came, they were cute, they were fun, we were excited, but they also brought their problems. They brought the snakes, they brought the dogs. They had to figure out that they needed to wait on us to figure out how to make a coop winterproof. Then they also were free ranging at one point, and we quickly realized that does not work well for our property, so we had to change our investigative research to how to keep our chickens safe and giving them the appropriate environment that will support them. You can't have a living thing at a school and then expect to not do anything with it. You're going to have to support it and find ways to make sure that it's going to be successful at its new location. Because let's face it, chickens are supposed to be on a farm. So getting them to a school, we really need to make sure that we are prepared in supporting them and to be successful. One of the old mindsets that a lot of us embarrassingly had was, okay, so we're getting these chickens, we're getting these live things, we're going to put a big chicken coop outside, and in a year or two, we won't need them, the chicken coop's going to be rotting, and it's just going to be sitting on the property making it look bad, and, we'll have chickens this year, but next year it'll be totally something different, but none of this is a one-time deal. None of this is a one-year fix. I honestly cannot see another way of teaching without these chickens now. I know that sounds crazy, but they fit into our standards and make the students' learning so much more authentic that it works. You're not going to get all of your answers in one thing, in one go, in 1 year. It's going to take many years, and thankfully, many students will benefit from this beautiful coop that we have on our property. The problems that the chickens create are ongoing, and there's a new one almost every 9 weeks that we've got to figure out a problem to. So letting it be authentic and letting it create its own problems make the students more engaged, because they see these things with their own eyes and they care so much about their class pet that they want to make sure that they are pulling their weight and putting in their part to keep these chickens supported at all times. One of the many cool things that has happened with having these chickens in our PBL is the collaboration that has went across grade level. Now, each grade level has their own project, their own investigative research, their own things going on. But our chickens have really been able to touch each grade level at some point. For example, first grade here has multiple garden beds. And they came to us and said, hey, we've heard that these eggshells will help our garden grow better and help the soil. Do you mind if we take some of your eggshells and try this out? And of course we said yes, and let us know what we can do to make our eggshells better, and so we can help you guys grow the best plants that you need. One grade level at one point was studying water conservation, and they had many barrels around the school, around the property, and the chickens benefited from that. The students were using it to collect the rainwater, and the chickens were using it to drink out of. One of our grade levels also was growing different herbs, and they actually came to us and did a presentation on these herbs and how they could affect our chickens and how we could use them as treats. And we thought that was great because, everybody gets tired of eating the same thing over and over. So having a treat that's locally grown in your own school to give to your chickens, how cool is that? So being able to collaborate with the whole building and not just your team has really been able to make you feel like you're not just stuck in your own room. And, there's other problems and other things going on that you could help affect and help change. So at the beginning of the school year, let's back it up to August. At the beginning of the school year, a kindergarten STEAM teacher is going to want to break it down to baseline. What is science? What is technology? We've got technology, but believe it or not, a lot of kids don't know that's what it's called. What's an engineer? What's math? What's the arts? So really breaking it down letter by letter, and that's what we do. We tell them we have a day about science. We teach about science, what it is, what it means, what it looks like, and then they pull out their STEAM journal, they draw a giant S on it, and then they draw pictures of what science looks like. And each letter in STEAM will have their own day like that. And to understand investigative research after you've talked about STEAM and your STEAM process, and what we do is we've taught them another hand motion. It really helps, I promise. But the hand motion is investigative research because you're looking and you're observing, and then you're writing down your observations. We've got lots of times that we're going out to check on the chickens, and then we come right back in and we might write down how many eggs we found or what's going on with the chickens, or drawing what the chicken coop looks at at wintertime instead of summertime, because a chicken coop is going to look different between the different seasons. So for both of these questions, lots of hand gestures here at Pine Ridge, lots of acting it out and getting that mind and the hands to connect. It really goes a long way, and it's worked really well with our students. So hopefully that helps. Enjoy the rest of your webinar, and best of luck.
Journaling was definitely one of the most intimidating parts of our STEAM certification. When we found out that our kindergartners are expected to write in a STEAM journal every day, of course, we just went into pure chaos mode. We thought that these kids were expected to be able to write their findings and write things that they've learned, and we're like, these kids can't write. So once we got clarification that they don't expect them to write either, and that pictures and just numbers or letters or whatever they could do at that time was accepted, we were able to breathe again. So don't get too intimidated by the fact that the kids have to journal every day. It becomes such a natural process to integrate it into writing, science, anything that you're doing. If let's pull out our STEAM journals and let's write what we've learned, or let's write what we found, and draw. So we started off with just having the kids draw pictures. They drew pictures of the chickens. They drew pictures of the chicken coop, just to get them familiar with, this is a thing. This journal is something that we're going to be using every day. One thing that we found to be really easy was we do monthly data collection for the amount of eggs that the chickens lay. So for each month, we would create a calendar. And in that calendar is just a blank calendar, and they would have boxes for each day. So when we did our data collection, it was so easy for the kids to just be able to pull out that journal, flip to their calendar, and write how many eggs were collected that day. It just was a lot more organized. The kids could interpret the data instead of just having them pull it out and just write in their journal or write numbers randomly. They couldn't find the one from yesterday. It just, they have a hard time with organization anyway. So that was just one thing we found to be super helpful when it came to collecting data, whether it's on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly, whatever, you do for your data collection. We just found that to be super easy and organized, and the kids were actually able to go back and look, and it just made even the data analysis a lot more easier too. So don't get overwhelmed by the fact that they're writing in their journal every day. Writing doesn't necessarily mean writing sentences, writing paragraphs. Just start off super easy. Let them do what they're able to do, and then as they become writers more independently, they can label pictures, they can write letters, they can try to write words, and eventually they will write sentences, and they'll be able to tell you what's in their journal. And that's the most important part. When the kids are pulling out their journal, talking about different things, can they look at that picture? Can they look at that word or that sentence and know what they're talking about? We do kind of start off with even having them copy a few things, but the most important thing is, are they able to look at that journal entry and tell you what that means? So don't get overly intimidated by the fact that they're writing in their journal. Use it to what they can do at that time. If you do want to learn more about STEAM journaling, we are doing a live session March 10th, so join us then. Once the planning, the standard integration, and the partnerships are formed, this is when all the fun begins. It's time for the kids to get more involved. It's time to finally put all of our hard work into action. The kids get to go out in the coop at this point. They get to clean, they get to feed and care for the chickens. It's also the time when the data collection begins. At this point, we've already have our investigative research, and it's time for the kids to collect that data. So they'll go out there every day. At our school, we split days between our 5 teachers in the 5 classes. So on Monday, it's one teacher's turn, and Tuesday, it's the next. So we're not having a bunch of kids out there at one time. It's the kids' responsibility to count the number of eggs, to check whatever we're investigating at that time, and report that to the other students as well. What we like to do is we keep a hallway display that the kids use sticky notes to write numbers for their data collection, and that way it's accessible for all the kids for them to collect that data and for them to track it in their journals and to keep up with it. At the end of an investigative research, the way that we kind of conclude it is we analyze all the data within our classrooms and talk about which day had the most chicken eggs or whatever we're investigating at that time, and then we kind of wrap it up. So it's the kids' time to either, for when we do earth materials and talk about the different earth materials in the laying boxes, it's time for the kids to clean out what didn't work and to add what did work to their nesting boxes. It's just time for the kids to really explore chickens and learn from experience the needs and the wants and different things that chickens need. One way that we really like to involve parents is on the weekends, we would do a grade level sign-up sheet. The parents can go online and sign up for a weekend for their kids and them and their family to come up and take care of the chickens. They get to collect the eggs. The eggs that they collect at that time, they can take home, and we get really cute pictures of kids eating and cooking the eggs at home. And it's just so fun to see that connection, not only between school and home, but in their learning. They're able to tell their parents, this is how we feed them, this is how we give them water. And it's just such a wonderful experience to see all the things that we work hard on with the planning actually come into play, and seeing the kids enjoy it and get to experience that with their family as well.
How can we maintain our coop? How can we get the sponsors to continue to help us out? We have a sponsor that donates our chicken feed, so that is wonderful. And then also, don't forget to thank your sponsors. We actually planned a red ribbon cutting ceremony with the entire kindergarten class and the people who helped build the coop. And we also had the 4th grade Odyssey that helped plan and research our coop too. So we made a really big celebration out of the learning and what we were doing.
My favorite part of taking care of the chickens were when we collected the eggs and made different kinds of recipes. We had to graph what material the chickens can lay their eggs in. My favorite part of taking care of the chickens in kindergarten was counting the eggs. Hi, my name is Charlie, but I'm in 2nd grade. But when I was in kindergarten, my favorite part about the chickens was that you got to look at the eggs and look at the chickens and count the eggs, and you got to just explore. and that's all I liked about kindergarten.
In the summer, bok, 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 and we lay more eggs. And the sun comes up, and the days are longer.
And
The moon comes up, and the days are shorter. And the chickens go to roost.
okay. All right.
Welcome to our chicken coop in the winter. Back, 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 we will lay less eggs. And the sun comes up, and the days are shorter.
Okay. And then
The moon comes up, and the chickens
then the
go
nights are
shorter.
longer.
Chickens go to roost.
Okay.
But the light bulb comes out and tricks the chickens. Hey, why is that light bulb there? They trick us to lay more eggs?
Okay. Lacey and Brian, you can help.
That's it. Play with our vegetative research. How does the leaf of day influence the laying habits of our chickens?
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope that you were able to take away a lot of tips, and I hope that planning your PBL seems a little bit more manageable. The main thing that we want to say to you is that if your PBL is built around something that your students can understand and your students can be engaged with, then it's going to be a lot easier than something that's forced. If you have to force it, let it go. It's not going to work. Reach out to your community. You never know the experts that you have in your very school and until you ask. So ask around, see who's willing to help. Everybody is usually willing to help a school. Send out a Google form or a Survey Monkey, like whatever it is that you need to collect and see who you have in your school community, and they'll be willing to help you guys. And intentional planning. If you've heard me in any other trainings, I've already said this before, but I can't stress it enough. Intentional planning, it's like the #1 key to success with STEAM and STEM. You will find that there are things that just flow naturally and they kind of come up as you're teaching, but planning that arts integration, planning those other subject areas to integrate is key, especially when you're first starting. When you're first starting, it feels so strange and different because it's so different from what we've all been used to. Sitting down with your grade level, sitting down with your fine arts teachers in the building or fine arts teachers in your community, if you don't have any building level fine arts teachers, is huge. Do it. I can't stress it enough. You will be so thankful that you did. We were. If you have any questions about that, we are going to leave our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to myself or the kindergarten teachers that were featured in this video. We would be so happy to help you out and give you any advice if we can. If we don't know the answer, we will help you find it. And as always, you can always leave comments. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope that you feel confident moving forward with your PBL.